21 colonists were slaughtered here in what is now part of Rye Beach. This was a little village of colonists, and we're talking King William's War and the Bracket Massacre. We've been talking Indian wars in early colonial America, and today we're going to talk about King William's War, where right here 21 colonists were slaughtered in a horrible situation as part of that conflict. From 1688 to 1697, this land was ravaged by King William's War, and basically we had the French battling it out with the English and different native populations duking it out with opposing sides. This really started up in northern Maine. Castine famously had a large battle as part of this conflict, and as it spread, it continued to go south. King William's War ravaged New York, Maine, parts of New Hampshire, Massachusetts. This is the same conflict that Hannah Duston, our heroine, the hatchet-wielding heroine of New England, if you've watched that vlog, got caught up in. And a similar thing happened here. Unfortunately, the fate of these folks was not as Hannah's was. They were unable to fight back, and it was just a devastating series of events here. So here along this old stone rockwork here, you can see that they have installed this placard, and this area just got this trail and signage not that long ago. I think it was like 2004. So we're going to take a look here and walk down. So Anthony Brack and his wife were buried here along with other settlers in the September 1691 raids. Yeah, so their final resting place is actually down the path here, and we're going to take a look. September of 1691, a group of indigenous peoples from the Kittery, Maine area, which is just above Portsmouth here, which is just north of where we are in current day Rye. They boarded canoes and crossed the Piscataqua River into these areas and made their way down. They targeted this village, which was unassuming. The people were just farming, fishing, minding their business, trying to develop a little community here, and 21 of them were slaughtered. There was a couple people that got away. Some were, well, I shouldn't say got away. They were captured and taken to Canada, the Quebec area. And there was one woman in particular who was taken and forced to join the tribe up there, married, and eventually got her freedom, came back to this area and reclaimed her father's land, and kind of was one of the early settlers here. You can see these tributaries and waterways. They flow out eventually out there to the ocean, and it is a very foggy, misty day. It's funny because we live close to here, and at our house it was sunny and warm, and we got right here closer to the water, and the temperature is about 10 degrees colder. Very foggy and actually cold. I'm glad that I grabbed my coat at the last minute. So we're gonna go down here and take a look. There was a lot of unrest in the colony. So I want you guys to really understand that with what we call the United States of America right now, before we were the free United States that our forefathers fought so hard with, starting with the Revolutionary War and the events of April 19th, 1775, which of course we're coming up on the 250th anniversary of that, there was a lot of hardship and a lot of struggle. We were just a set of 13 colonies and a lot of disputed land. And through all that, there was a lot of bloodshed, very hard times. And that evidence can be seen here. Here are the graves of folks who were just living in this little village, minding their own business when they were slaughtered. And we are talking men, women, children. There was a young boy. And this is their final resting place. I can't imagine what it would have been like to be living during those times and trying to survive out here in the New Hampshire wilderness. So you had a lot of unrest going on with the English government. King James was disposed. William of Orange and Mary took over, and he became king of England, Ireland, and Scotland, and there was a great divide amongst the people with that. The first Jacobite rebellion would break out in the years to come. as Scotland tried to regain their foothold on the land and their independence. It was not successful, of course, as that remains to this day. And in the following years, a lot of conflict over the land. The land disputed. The English were here, but everybody wanted more. Fortunately, in the process, the native population also struggled and was pushed out, but often that came out in really violent ways, as we can see here today. From 1688 to 1697, these types of raids and horrible massacres would wage on across the area. Eventually a peace treaty was signed and just years later Queen Anne's War would break out, another set of Indian wars, leading up to eventually the French and Indian War. So really it went on and continued for many, many years until that finally ended and we had the new conflict, the Revolutionary War for Independence, which was very different because then it was, colonists wanting their freedom from their own government and a change, whereas this was early land struggles against people who were firmly planted here and new empires coming in. Unfortunately, violence was often the outcome of these. So interesting to note that as this was going on, this King William's War, the colonists were becoming increasingly aware of the native population's traditions, and they were very sensitive to a lot of the practices which were foreign from theirs. They viewed it as some black magic going on, which there could be an argument for. They had shamans and healers and things like that. Something they definitely weren't used to and something that they didn't agree with. So they became very hypersensitive. And in the midst of all this, the Salem witch trials goes on during the last couple of years of King William's War. And there is an argument to be said amongst historians that this really fueled that because sensitivities were heightened. Everybody was on high alert, and after all the violence, it helps you kind of understand why they were so sensitive to it, worried about it, and didn't want kind of the spiritual takeover, I guess you could say, to happen. I'm not defending it. I'm just saying that you have to look at history through the lens of the time, and an argument could be made for the fact that it heightened sensitivities, and part of that is, a lot of these people were affected by the violence of these times, and to them it was a foreign type of peoples that were practicing something they didn't agree with, and they were worried about that taking hold in their own communities. Not that the people were foreign, because obviously they were here before the colonists, but the culture was foreign to them. That makes it both interesting and gruesome. So Captain John Locke, good name, like John Locke, one of my favorite philosophers. This John Locke was killed by indigenous people working his field in rye. The legend goes that he used a sickle, like the one pictured, to defend himself, cutting off the nose of one of his attackers. Years later, his son recognized the disfigured alleged attacker and avenged his father's death. Wow, see, stuff like that, it's brutal and it's hard to think of now, but place yourself in the situation and think about, the very real and tangible evidence left behind, like, these headstones of these colonists. And if it's your loved one, similar to the Hannah Duston story, she fought back. She, unfortunately felt that she needed to scalp her captors, but fortunately it did work out for her. I mean, they had just killed her child, and that's a different site, but same war. And these are the types of things, whether it's Hannah Duston, John Locke, the Brackett family, these were the things that happened, and we need to remember them. I'm just grateful to the people that came before us, and I'm also grateful that I'm not living in 1691 Rye, New Hampshire. I like 2025 Rye, New Hampshire much better. One last look at the final resting place. Again, it's just so humbling to come to spots like this, and these little gems are kind of everywhere. But I just want to hammer in and help you guys understand the build-up to our freedom, our liberties, and all of the struggles that preceded all of that. Somebody has shot, I guess, what is supposed to look like an Indian arrow into the ground here. Came down the road about a mile because I thought we might as well take a look at the ocean, and I am loving the fog. So, you know, Rye was established in 1621, and there was like a little colony of people here. Then it kind of got abandoned for Strawberry Bank / Portsmouth as that continued to grow in popularity and get larger. And those people that were living there off Brackett Road at the Brackett Memorial Site where the tragedy happened, that was kind of the only little colony of civilization that was out here for a while. And then, so you have to imagine those people living in the wilderness by the ocean, kind of out in the sticks, and they're pretty helpless. The natives, they know how to work the land, they know that they're familiar with the area. Atlantic Ocean, you stunner. You absolute stunner, you. Oh my gosh. I love storms and fog. I'm not a history chick, and like Patrick Henry, of course I know of no way of judging the future but by the past. I hope you enjoyed this solemn little look into our past. I know it wasn't, you know, the most fun and uplifting thing, but it's important, especially ahead of what I would call more fun and uplifting things to come with the anniversary of the Revolutionary War and the anniversary of our independence. I just want everyone to understand all the struggle and what preceded all of that, and I hope that comes across. We'll see you soon. Like, share, subscribe. Bye.